Here we're going to look at the city of Edward, and we're doing the governmental activities reconciliation. So we're looking at, so similar to the formatting here, I'm going to kind of copy this, and then I'm just going to change things to kind of improve the speed. So this is the city of Edward here. Okay, and this is the reconciliation of the statement of revenues that we're working on right now. Okay, and this is December 31st. Okay, so here we have the net change in fund balance. And we're going to take this amount up here, the $322,790, and then we're looking at the statement of activities. Okay, so first we have governmental funds. So governmental funds. Okay, so we have the statement, governmental funds report capital outlays as expenditures. However, in the statement of activities, the cost of these assets is allocated over their estimate useful lives as depreciation expenses. This is the amount by which capital outlays exceed depreciation. Okay, and then we're going to calculate that. So you can see here where we have the capital outlays here and then the depreciation expense. So we're going to take capital outlays, $237,762 minus the depreciation expense. Then our second amount Okay, so our second night, some statements, revenues in the statement of activities do not provide current financial resources and are not reported as revenue in the governmental funds. So we're looking at here, we have revenues that do not provide current resources, so $23,119. Okay. Then we have debt proceeds provide current financial resources to governmental funds, but issuing debt increases long-term liabilities in the statement of net position, the amount of proceeds. So here we have this long-term debt issuance, notes and leases. So we're going to record that here as a negative amount, so this $314.83. And then the last item we have is the accrued expenses that do not use current financial resources. So we find ourselves with a net position of $228.83. So that's what we should match here. What we're missing here is I actually typoed that wrong. So $220 and $84. I had missed that was $791. Okay, so that's a reconciliation for that. Next, we're going to look at preparing the financial statements from a trial balance. Okay, so when we're looking at that, we're going to start with the statement of activities. Okay, and you can see here that we have the statement of activities, and we start with expenses for the primary governments, include any charges for services, operating grants and contributions, and capital grants and contributions. So this is for our statement of activities. So we're going to get that information from up here. So we're going to go to expenses, general government, and I'm going to copy those down, because they should just copy straight down. And then we have the total of our expenses in our governmental activities section. Then I'm going to look at charges for services. So when I come up here, I have these three charges for services. So general government, public safety, and culture and recreation. So general government is $4,424, and then public safety, $1,048, and then culture and recreation is $372. Okay, then I'm going to see if I have any operating grants and contributions, and I have one here for general government. And then any capital grants, and it says I have one here for public works. So go to public works and bring that capital grants amount down here. Okay. And so what we're looking for here for the net expenses and revenues is that charges for services, operating grants, and contributions are all financial dollars in, and then the expenses is the amount out. So we're going to, the easiest way to do this, I'm going to sum these three columns of revenue and then subtract expenses. Okay, and that way I can just carry that amount down. Okay, so I have some negative amounts here, and that's just net changes in position with revenue and expenses as compared to charges for services. Next, then I have general revenues. So I have property taxes, interest and penalties on delinquent taxes, and interest income. So that's only for governmental activities. We are done with the program revenues. So I'm going to throw a border on that. Okay, so we're looking for property taxes, general revenues, and we see here those three right there. So I can copy those three down. Okay, and I get total general revenues. And then, so I'm going to add these three revenues. Okay, and then I get increase or decrease in unrestricted net position. This is going to be a slight increase. I'm going to add my revenues plus my expenses. And so I get this change of $730. Okay, now I need my net position. Okay, so I have my I'm looking for net position here. So my net position on July 1st, which is given in the problem, 53938, and then my net position here is the sum of the increase with July 1st. And that is the statement of activities, showing the program revenues and expenses and the governmental activities. Okay, next I'm going to look at the statement of net position, also working off of this trial balance. Okay, so I have cash, investments, so we're going to bring down the amount of cash. And then I have investments. And then this says taxes receivable net. So I want to make sure that I remove that allowance for doubtful accounts. So I have the net amount because that means net of allowance for doubtful accounts. And then due from other governments. So I have this 6,369. Okay, I'm going to add together what are my current assets. Ugh. Excel is fantastic when you're putting in. So I have my current assets here, and then for formatting. Okay, and then I have my capital assets. So you see that it says net of depreciation. So I want to make sure that I take depreciation off of the infrastructure, buildings, and machinery and equipment, but I'm going to bring the amount for land down. And then we'll do infrastructure. So I have this 85,000, and then I have accumulated depreciation. Okay, then we have buildings. So then I'm going to go to buildings and subtract my depreciation. And then I have machinery and equipment. So machinery and equipment minus this accumulated depreciation. Okay, my total capital assets then. Okay, and then total assets equaling current assets plus capital assets. Okay, and then I can go to my current liabilities where I have accounts payable, accrued liabilities, and the current portion of long-term debt, where I'm going to be getting these just from my trial balance and bringing them down. So I have accounts payable and accrued liabilities and the current portion of long-term debt. So bring those three down, not the bonds yet. And I have total current liabilities. and then my bonds payable. And we have bonds payable of $29,350. Okay, so my total liabilities, adding those numbers, formatting. Okay, so then now I have my net position amounts. So first I have my net investment in capital assets. So it says, it gives me some information up here, and it says the net position accounts do not reflect depreciation. So when I bring that down, I need to make sure I subtract that depreciation amount. So I'm going to look at my net investment in capital assets, this $45,126. Then I want to make sure I subtract that $1,480 amount of depreciation to get that amount. Okay, then I have restricted for debt service. Okay, and so I have a note about the debt service. So it says the restricted net position for debt service increased $113. So I'm going to take that 2,000 and then I'm going to add 113. And I know this is with zeros omitted, so they're actually much larger numbers, but it's just easier to say this. Okay. Then the unrestricted, we start with the beginning balance. So the 6,624. Then we're going to add our increase in net position here from our statement of $730. We're going to add that $1,480 in depreciation, and we're going to subtract the $113 in debt service. And so we get then that our total net position is $54,668. Okay, and those are the financial statements.